So, as the world turns in the world of the CBA negotiations between the WNBA and the Players Association, they have come to essentially a 6 week extension that will take us through the new year into January 9th. This comes on the heels of the previous 30-day extension. Obviously, the first one expired, as everyone remembers, on Halloween, and they came to a last minute extension to basically continue working in good faith towards a deal. And in that time, we've seen, both sides essentially put what they want out about each other, going all the way back to the Nafisa Collier interview, in public at the exit interview. Then, the Associated Press picking up wind of some of the details the league was offering, and they were basically basing it strictly around salaries and big round numbers just to make people's attention go toward that. It looks like they have, really spent time arguing this. And I think it is very clear kind of what will end this negotiation. And I don't know. I want to say the fact that they have come to another extension here is a good thing. It is a good thing not only because it shows both sides are locked in to make it happen, and people haven't just thrown their hands up exhausted with each other. These negotiations between players and leagues, it's not supposed to feel pretty. It's not supposed to be easy. These are people fighting, for their livelihoods, in the players' cases. And the owners, they're trying to find a way to, stick a little bit more yen in their pockets, and figure out essentially how they're going to, operate, as owners. They like to say what their incentives are and all that. So, let's take a look at this thing here. This basically comes from ESPN. They agreed to a 40-day extension on the CBA. They basically said January 9th. The league wanted one that was a 21-day extension. So they did kind of push to the players, put it on their side. It's interesting the league wanted to wrap this up before Christmas. It looks like the only thing that really might be in jeopardy of being missed right now is like the expansion drafts, but they can figure that out whenever. And I think that's the real kind of beneficial part of this. Is during that extension, they will get to do that expansion draft. Um, this right here is kind of the part that I was referencing before. According to a November 18th report by the Associated Press and later confirmed by ESPN, the WNBA had proposed a deal featuring significant salary increases as well as a revenue sharing component, in all offering players at the maximum more than 1.1 million and the minimum at 220,000. And then they compared the salaries previously. So people may read that paragraph, right? And they're like, oh, the $1.1 million, boom. Oh, they are offering revenue sharing. But you notice they did not drop the amount of revenue sharing. That is the contention right there. They had revenue sharing in the previous CBA, but we all know it's only 9%. So that percentage right there is the issue right there. In the NBA, they get 50%, right? It's going to take a long time for the WNBA to work toward that 50, right? But there was a great column in the Athletic a couple months ago saying the WNBA is essentially right now where the NBA was in 1984, 83, right when David Stern took over. And as far as like, the percentage that they were, asking for, and the players got like far more back then. And the WNBA is essentially even now, like as far as like the finances and all that. You guys will have to forgive me. I don't have the article on hand right now, but people ask for, whatever they can get, not what they quote unquote think they're worth. So like if they were on par with what the NBA was back in the 80s, you would think they can, you know, like going up to 50% would probably be like a pie in the sky thing, I think, for the players side. But I think what was going on is they don't want to necessarily move that revenue sharing component from that 9%. Now, what would be a good happy medium? I guess that would depend on, what the players would see as a happy medium. Would it be 30%? My initial prediction before I started like digging more into the minutia of everything was they would go up to like 23% or something like that. But maybe even that's low, as they've opened up these books and everything else. It is like, well, why even settle for that? Maybe there's more. And you know, God bless them. Like, if it was me and I was in there, like, yo, we're trying to get every dollar, GED, so like, the it says the players were not necessarily moved by that proposal because it did not feature a system in which the salary cap and thus player salaries would sufficiently grow with the business. That's what that means with the revenue sharing thing right there. So like some of this stuff you have to read beyond the words because they will tell you, like they'll hand it to you, but they're also putting like some other information right there. Um, from there, the league has basically said they want to substantially increase player salaries. That's their argument. It's been their argument and everything like that. So they will continue to work toward figuring out, you know, that percentage because that seems to be the one major hang up here. Everyone, has I don't think it's necessarily about anything that has to do with external factors like the fans, the refereeing, and all that stuff. All that stuff's secondary. That'll get addressed once the money falls in place. How nice everyone's being treated, like that stuff is nice to throw out there to try to swing public support, but ultimately it's about the end. And I think people should probably be more understanding of that because if this was their job, they would certainly understand trying to maximize their earning potential and all that. And of course, there's a major outlier in this thing, like with Caitlin Clark in the last like 2 years and all that. People want to separate Caitlin from the players as much as possible, on the outside, but that doesn't really make any sense. Because if you think Caitlin Clark was ostracized already for kind of being a star, imagine what it would be, on the other side. I think going forward, that extension is the best thing. I don't think a third extension is going to come. I think this is now or never because we are getting to the point where if they extend again, Unrivaled will have already started, and if they extend again, you're actually in threat of messing with the league calendar. And I think both sides will start feeling the pressure to get something done. Um, I think that an optimistic view would be thinking that the players could get around 30%, right? Um, but you never know; they might get more. As far as the league, they're not losing anything here, so it just depends on if they want to come into the 21st century or stay in the 1980s with how they want to treat the league. And I've talked about it on the channel several times. You guys kind of know like how I feel about this, where it takes a lot to look someone in the face and say, "Yeah, but you guys aren't doing this. But you guys aren't really growing anything. You guys like aren't doing all this with all those numbers, with the numbers." And yes, Caitlin Clark is responsible for lots of them, and the boom and the explosion around it. But ultimately, this is going to be a league in which Caitlin Clark plays in for the next 15 years. So she can't play by herself, and from here, I think there needs to be just more of an honest, negotiation between the sides. Like ultimately, both sides do need each other, and I think they realize that. And the further this goes on, I feel like silence is a good thing. I don't think all the mudslinging in public necessarily means makes for the best kind of reception to all this because people naturally want to take up for the bosses for whatever reason. They see themselves more in line with a boss than they do with a worker. Most of y'all ain't bosses. Let's keep it real. Y'all got jobs too. So just saying. But if you're looking at it from my side, I think you see the amount of patience that these things, need. It's not easy for someone to be like, damn, I feel like I have to take a loss here. No one wants to lose. And they say a good negotiation, nobody wins. But if you can minimize feeling like a loser, I think that, it is a better thing. And ultimately, this new 40-day agreement will be a positive, I would say. So it feels like, we're taking steps towards getting things done, and I don't think we'll miss anything like that. And there are other factors like Project B is coming into this. Of course, we got all the members of the Players Union tied up in all these other leagues. And there's a question like, man, if it was such a big deal about staying home, everyone's willing to go on the road again. I think that's a valid point. And I think that's something that people have to reckon with. But that again falls to my previous point. If the money gets right, everything else will fall into place. So we'll check in on it again. I don't want to do these CBA videos every day because it gets tiring. Saying all that, but I'm willing to wait it out. I'm willing to be positive and hope everyone arrives at the point to where the players feel good about it and the owners are like, what else can you do at this point? You got to take care of your workforce. So, anyway, my name is Rich. I'm up out of here. What do you guys think about this extension that's happening? And I'll holler at you guys next time. Peace. One lifetime.